graduate. You just can't get that when you do it online. It's just
We'll be free from there. You'll take care of it. Rock.
okay. Oh, really? Yeah.
We'll be free from her. She goes down to see you in her house.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, as long as she's not in a spot that's, we lived there for a few years. I'll tell you what, hurricane threats were just, I'm just chatting. I'm just chatting. So, and the other thing for Florida is there's parts of Florida that were, but they're becoming infrequent. We were within 30 miles. There's 8.5 million people. We were down in Boca. Traffic is insane. People were pushy. That is not me. But there's parts that are like this, like more in Gainesville's kind of central area of Florida. Most of it is populated, but she's been in DC. She's been surviving the traffic. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. And then again, the traffic is a nightmare. But if you're anything you want to do, it's there. It's there. If you get to
All right. Well, I will call this October 3rd, 2024 school board work session to order. Dr. Arbogast.
Thanks, sir. Good morning. It's good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Survived the storm well. First on the agenda today, as you know, for over a year, we've been having a conversation with Radford University, talking about the potential for a governor school for arts and humanities. So what we wanted to do today, what I wanted to do, this conversation's been going along with Floyd, Pulaski, Radford City, and Montgomery County, as well as us. So I wanted to have Dr. I'm gonna apologize before I mispronounce it.
Works just fine.
I'm gonna apologize before I mispronounce it already. Dr. Brett Danowicz, from President RU, he's here today to share information with us about where we are in the conversation, and so that you all can ask any questions. Ask Mr. Bowles and Ms. Bogus to be here as well, so that they can see and hear this as well, and ask any questions that they may have as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Danowicz and let him share information he has for you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Arbogast. And I appreciate you letting me participate in your meeting this morning. I've given you all a one, it's a front and back handout. That's about the governor's school. But of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I also didn't bring a packet about Radford University. So you've got both. And if there's other people that want more, more of this, I think I've brought 12 copies. Just let me know. So the important part of governor schools is it's trying to give students an early opportunity to look what advancement in that area of specialty looks like, right? So you're familiar with the STEM school down at New River. There are a lot of STEM schools across the Commonwealth. Many of them are concentrated in the summer. There's about 10 that are academic year governor schools, maybe a few more than that at this point, but almost all of them are STEM. There's a few that are art specialized, but they're mostly STEM. So the difference about this school is most governor schools, when they're set up, it takes a student and they are taught along other students who are also high school students in the governor school. That is not this model. Okay? This model is based on Florida Atlantic University, where I was provost for 4 years. And just to put this in context, so Florida, here it's called Governor School. In Florida, it's called a lab school. Okay, it's really the same thing. It's just just a different opportunity for students. So in Florida, their lab school structure, their elementary school in the nation is ranked second for all public elementary schools, not public lab schools. Okay, public schools. They're 8th or 9th, depending on the ranking that you look at for middle school, and their high school, which is based around the principles that we're going to talk about, is ranked in the top 100. It's about 99th because they don't offer any AP classes, and that's one of the requirements for rankings. So they're really high-functioning schools, and the difference there is rather than the classes being taught to high school students, these are university classes that are taught to university students, and the governor school students are participating in those classes. So these are truly elevated classes. There's no difference from a university class. And so it's both content and culture that they're learning through this. Now, the reason this particular one came about in speaking with not only your superintendent, but Rob Graham and some of the other superintendents in the area, it had been identified that while there was a track for students in the area who were excelling in the sciences to take advantage of Governor School, really for students that were excelling in the arts, very broadly, or humanities and social sciences, broadly speaking, there wasn't a similar track in our area for those students. And obviously it's expensive to do that. Music just is complicated. If there's a student that's trying to do that and they're really good at oboe, okay, how do you set up an oboe students in Giles County for success, right? It's resource intensive. So our goal as we started working together was how do we try to provide a centralized resource for these students that was in some ways cost effective, but a lot of those students a pathway to be successful. What you will see is that in that handout, we're still adapting this. We have our proposal will be due in December, is when we're going to be applying to the Department of Education. And our thoughts right now is that students who have a 3.3 grade point average that are interested in the arts, they would have that 3.3 in the arts subjects that they've taken, right? So we're excluding the humanities, the sciences, the math, etc. Or if a student is interested in the humanities or social science track, that is the GPA that we would be looking for a 3.3. Whatever we do, we want to make sure that the students that are entering this can be successful. Our worst nightmare is that a student comes in, they start, and they're not successful at the university, right? What signal is that to that student about their future? So this program would be identifying these students when they're freshmen. They would come to Radford University for their sophomore year. They would be taught by teachers that are going to be hired for this program. And they would be taking, I'm going to call them transitional classes, getting them up to speed for university level learning. They would be going to Radford in the mornings, Monday through Friday. I think following the same, we're trying to tag exactly onto trying to tag out exactly to the bus system that they use for New Rivers, right? So to make it easier for parents and our bus drivers and more cost effective. They would take those classes which do line up with their criteria for what they need to get their high school diploma. And they would be taking classes like English but if they're an art student interested in the arts, they would be taking an English class that is built around English and the arts. The history class that they would be taking would be history through the lens of arts to try to really, it still counts in the high school, right, but really get them excited about their field. At the end of that year, those students would then start taking university classes the next year, their junior year. They would be expected to take 2 classes the fall semester at the university, and then 2 classes in the spring semester. And they'd still have the time in the afternoons to be completing the other opportunities or obligations they have for their diploma, also participating in the high school arts or music programs that they have at the high school, but that opportunity also to participate at the university. In their senior year, they'd be taking 3 classes each semester at the university. So by the time they graduated, the students would have 30 hours of either arts or humanities, which all counts towards a university degree. And I say university, it's all mapped towards New River Community College too, remember, which is the most affordable pathway for most students to take. So the students would have 1 year of university work done by the time they graduate. And remember, it's not AP credit, it's not credit that was just taught to high school students. These are authentic university classes that the students would have taken. Our hope is that, first of all, this makes the pathway more affordable for students. Okay, there is a cost to the state. The average cost that the state provides as a subvention is about $2,500 per student. So we are applying for that money, and that's part of our application. So that's a subvention. Just like the STEM school, I believe the cost per year is $38.50 per student who participates in the STEM school. That would be the same charge that we would establish for this, but there's no additional costs to the students. There's no additional costs to the school system. All right, so busing is part of that. All the other costs that are gonna show up are gonna be coming out of those centralized dollars. So it's, we're planning on paying for the students' books if they need them out of that $38.50. Just any costs we have, there's a big misnomer that higher education is unaffordable. All right, it's not when you partner with community colleges in Radford. I'm just saying there's definitely an affordable track. We're going to be mapping that out for everybody. But for students, if the students in high school and they're not thriving in math, just as an example, but they're great in arts or they're great in English, they may feel that they can't compete at university. This is trying to reset their thinking so they can identify that they're able, they can identify that this is affordable, and when you get them students in an area and they attend, be it a community college or a university in the area, there is a great likelihood they come back to the area and stay in the area. When students disperse, they don't often come back. And many of you, as I talked to you, you're from the area, you stay in the area. There's a couple of imports, but when you got here, you stayed. But we are trying to keep talent in the Southwest. So this is an important part of graduating from future teachers to health people, to lawyers, just to get them to stay in the area. So that is a broad overview of how this is working. We would plan on starting to recruit students in fall 25 for starting in fall 26. I know that's a little ways out, but it takes a while to get this approved. And as I said, we don't want to have any unsuccessful students in this program as much as we can do that. So we want to start it out right. We don't want to get it wrong. And with that opening, superintendent or others, I am happy to answer questions from finances to politics to what they're going to be studying in the classes. And know that we've got these 6 tracks identified now, 3 in the arts and 3 in the humanities. But those are somewhat flexible, and we're still going to be working with the school systems to figure out what's best for our area, what those needs are. Because our goal, this isn't serving the university, it is serving the school districts. It'll be cost neutral from the university side, potentially, again, offering us a track to future talented students in these areas. I mean, we'd love to have them and keep them. But it is just part of a university. It's our obligation to support the region, and this is a way that we can do so. So what questions do you have?
I'll say this as well. We started day one conversation with RU and the other 4 school divisions. We don't want to affect the relationship that we have, and he mentioned New River Community College. We do not want to affect that relationship we have because it's a very positive relationship we have, but we also have a positive relationship with Radford University as well. So trying to meld those together.
And if I could just springboard off that, so as an example, there's an AP class in English that is offered by New River. I don't remember if you had it like each semester. There's a schedule.
111 and 112.
Yeah, so we're working, New River offers basically, I'm gonna say the equivalent of an English 111, the equivalent of an English 112, and there's I believe it's world history that they offer in most of the systems. And then there's kind of a sprinkling about that's different. We are not trying to take those students away. So we are working through how to do that most effectively. I will just say it's a complicated map, but it's a constructive map. We're just trying to figure it out and how it'll work best.
I do have a question.
Please.
Because you said that the English and history is going to be built around the arts for these kids,
Yes.
and it will cover like the high school credit.
It will.
But if a student decides, hey, I want to transfer, I don't want to stick here, I found something else.
Yeah.
Is that transferable as well, like equally like the 111 and 112, or would they still have to go in and take their freshman level English
No,
somewhere else?
Yeah, so those, most universities, not all, are offering specialized sections of the 111 and 112. So this isn't novel doing it this way, but it's novel offering students in high school the opportunity to do it. Right, but if a student comes in, for example, as a science major at Radford, and they take a science-based writing class, it still transfers anywhere else.
Okay, does it transfer as an elective?
No, it transfers as the writing.
Okay.
Because the learning outcomes don't change.
Okay, that's fine.
It's just the examples that are used in the course that are different.
Okay.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
No, you go right ahead.
And I probably don't know enough to to even be asking this question, but, so for the administrators, and you, Lisa, for the students in this age group that would be taking these sort of specialized
Yes.
focused classes in that discipline area, are those students SOL tested at that, like, will these classes still give the students what they need to pass SOLs if they're tested at that age? Does that make sense?
Yes, I know what you're asking, because they still would have to take the SOLs for
Yes.
their courses.
Right.
But I'm guessing, like, if you're doing, you said you're gonna target freshmen first, right?
We're gonna be recruiting freshmen.
That grade level?
Recruiting freshmen to start in their sophomore
In
year.
their sophomore
So are
year?
they SOL tested in English in their sophomore year?
Yes, they do a writing.
Oh, writing, okay.
Yeah, so,
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a disconnect if our students know how to take SOLs, but they were taking a course that was specialized, are they still getting the content that they need to pass the SOL? Is that a valid
Well,
question?
yes, like-
Yeah, it's a valid question, and we're hiring teachers because we wanna make sure that those sophomore level courses are being developed, the curriculum, and taught in a way that it fully
That covers
counts.
those, okay.
It fully counts. That's why, we're not gonna have university faculty to it, love our faculty,
Right.
okay? But, you know, working with sophomores is a little different than working
Sure.
with college freshmen, and while some of our faculty might, they won't be as able to work through to make sure that that's covered. Because again, if a student stops out, at any point, we wanna make sure that they have that covered. We want those high school diplomas. Yeah, that's a great question, Nicole.
Dr. Arbogast talked to me a little bit about the size of the cohort that we would be starting
Yeah.
with. So, how many students, like, I know how many we recruit and how many we place at New River.
Yeah.
How many are we looking at to start in the first cohort?
So to start the first cohort across the 5 school systems, the back of the napkin estimate from all the superintendents is we'd have about 40, okay, that are in the program. And that would be kind of repeated, so over the 3-year period, it would be about a total of about 120 students. That mimics almost identically what the New River Community College has. Now, the thing is, we don't wanna grow this to be a super huge program, right? The way that this works financially, because this is tied, right? First of all, school systems probably can only afford to send so many students in it because budget is limited at some level, right? On our side, the way it works financially is if we were trying to teach courses just to high school students, we'd be hiring all those faculty, this would be unaffordable. The reason it works at Florida Atlantic and it'll work here is if we take our introduction to theater class, for example, those classes are rarely full. Okay, our class size is about 20 for our freshmen. So it might have 17 students, might have 18 students, well, we've got a couple of spots for these high school students. Right, you start opening that up across enough sections, we use those open seat models where we are not paying additional money for the students in their junior and senior years, okay? That's why we can put the money back into busing, into books. You know, there might be a time in a couple of years where, okay, in a dream world, we don't need the $38.50 per student, but I think we have to plan that way, just to be safe. So I do believe the estimate from Giles, again, this was true back of the napkin, without surveys of students, I think it was about 5 students from Giles each year. Yeah, and you know, this is a program, yeah.
I can see this growing. I mean, as somebody that 30 years ago went to the STEM governor school, but
Yep.
you know, I'm a lawyer now, I was a
Yep.
science major. But, you know, if you wanted advanced college credit, if you wanted those things, you went there, even though I was, you know, probably not a science person, but I think there's a lot of kids that are probably at the STEM governor school that are there because, hey, mom and dad said you need to go to governor school. I mean,
Sure,
that's-
sure.
I've got an 8th grader right now that I would say you're going to go to governor school. And that's, you know, if there's an option there that's different, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that may be possible in time, remember, you know, the wealth per family in this part of the state is different than in other areas, right? And so while our subsidy from the state, you know, the expectation is it'll be $2,500, one would hope in time there's some adjustment with the family's ability to pay, hence the school system's ability to pay. So the subvention from the state would be larger because you know, that 3850, there may be more student interest, but that will become a barrier to the system at some level, right?
So the selection process, I
Yep.
know that you have criteria, we have a matrix that we use for the selection process for, New River.
Yeah.
Would we use, like, do we need to develop a selection process, or will that be in place through you?
We will be developing it. It's probably gonna be similar, like the GPA that we're using is different, right? And how we structure that, that's different. For students that are going into the arts tracks, in any one of those, they will need to audition. I guarantee there's no audition in STEM school, right? Go to the whiteboard and draw this formula, right? Doesn't happen. So they will need to do that because, again, a student may be an aspiring musician, but if they can't play the basics, they won't be successful, right? So we have to do that. And when we've kind of talked about this with the superintendents, and what we believe is that that there will be a request for, I'm gonna call them letters of reference, okay? But it is, when we talked about it, it's not essays written by teachers, it's gonna be, some type of a survey that is like scaled, right? Just to make it simple on the teachers, because I know what the workload is like, right? But I think the most important part, and there'll be an essay by the students, they can do by essay or video, trying to keep it flexible, because some people are better speaking, some people are better writing, but there's also the little bit of thread of the AI that we wanna make sure that whatever a student is writing is the right. But we'll have a panel of university faculty members and probably a teacher or two from each of the systems to come together to evaluate these, because you're over the gifted program here, so most of the students applying you would probably know directly. And so by sitting on that, you'd be able to provide some background to that individual's map. And I don't know how it works at New River, but we're trying to do this in a way that a student that is interested in one of these two tracks is going to be identified as successful. We're not using SOLs, we're not using any standardized tests. A lot of the literature shows that students that are interested, particularly in the arts, just do not thrive on standardized tests. And so why use that if that's not the student we're trying to select? Okay, so in this, while we've got a draft together, there's a slightly longer document that describes this. I think, Nicole, you might have seen it. If you do have feedback on how to make it more effective, we're open to it. This is not the university saying, we know what's best, here is your program. We are building this to support the schools. Okay?
And just to be clear.
Yeah.
The GPA, so it will be, if they're going into the art, design, music, theater, then the GPA would be within those courses. They may not be like a 3.3 math student, but you just take in consideration for that discipline that they're going in, that would be the 3.3 that they would need.
That's correct. And what may be challenging with that is, let's say that we have a student interested in music, okay, one of the music options, and they haven't had a music class, or they've had very limited art classes, so you can't even build a GPA. Well, we have to try to figure out what's the best representation of that student. With the skills that are similar, and that's why there's got to be some teachers working on this.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a question, and Paula, this might be more for you, but so we're talking about recruiting in fall 25 for fall 26 entry, so it's this year's 8th grade class.
Correct.
That would be the starting cohort. And you mentioned probably about 5. I mean, maybe we should consider like surveying the 8th grade students for early interest, like, hey, if something like that, way we could really capture like who might be thinking about this, who could go in this direction, so that we could prepare,
So that was my thought process to start, we need to
seeding that
start
early.
looking at students that we could talk with and talk to parents.
Yeah.
And see who would be interested in one of these tracks. So,
Yeah.
we need to start discussing that.
And again, however we can help with that might be the superintendents coming together, but we're happy to help with them as we can. although I kind of crashed your work session this morning, remember, we're 45 minutes away, I think 43 minutes away, I'm not far, so always happy to come back, I'm just an email away, we are, very accessible, certainly through the superintendent. So if you have questions after this, you're like, oh, I wish I had asked this question. It would be, we're happy to get those answered. I will say, one of the exercises we went through at our last planning committee meeting, and the planning committee has a representative from each school board. Nicole is kindly sitting on that for Giles County. There's also a parent from each region, all the superintendents, myself, and two of the deans from the university. And we did talk about specifically content, okay? Because let's say that we are using a class in theater, right, just as an example. Topics in theater range widely, right, with that topic, from, I will say, fairly straightforward, throw a good musical at me, right, to very controversial topics. So what are these students going to be involved with? Well, we've gone through all the course curricula, and our intent is to offer courses that themselves are not controversial. Okay, it's never been our goal as an institution, but in an introductory theater class, that, again, they will be talking about a range of topics. None are going to be, they would expect it to be highly, challenging. There's probably not students that, I will just say a play on transgenderism. They're going to be very controversial among parents. The goal is not to have our students in this program involved in those. However, we do not control what students ask in the questions. A student in an art class, okay, if they're in there and they're asked to draw a person, and they do, and somebody draws a nude, that is university students. So as we're getting this together, not just from the survey, but also as we're recruiting students, parents will have to sign off just to acknowledge that this is a university class with university students, hence university level content. We can't control everything that comes up in the class, but we are not purposefully providing, I will say, controversial topics as the basis to talk around. And it's, again, it's never going to be perfect. There's going to be issues that come up in class, but that is the nature of being in a community. So I do want to make you aware we've done our best to address it, but it's going to be imperfect. And our students will be able to access the library. Okay, that's part of that. The library has all resources.
Just want to say on behalf of the whole school system, we greatly appreciate the work that Radford's done in the school system over the years and continues to be a great partner. And we look forward to continuing that through this and other co-ventures.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'm going to say two quick things, because you probably don't know, again, we're just down the road. You may not know this, but Radford University tests more nurses for licensure in the state than any other university, public or private, in the Commonwealth. So just little old Radford, right, 43 minutes away. The other part is there is a one-page handout in there about the Radford Tuition Promise. If you haven't heard of it, any student that comes from a family that makes $100,000 or less won't pay a penny for tuition at Radford. They have to fill out their FAFSA, okay? But that's about half our students. From Giles County, that's probably a lot of your students. And for us, this is just a commitment that we have made to show that it's affordable. Remember, housing and food is the most expensive part of going to university. You are close. Students that can commute have suddenly taken off the largest expense they've got. Partner with a community college, it's very, very affordable. So when people say college is unaffordable, again, just you can use an example of Radford, just so actually you can map through this and just do a summer part-time job and be debt-free, no money from your parents, no loans. Okay? Just that's my point.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So I mean, everybody's like wheels are turning.
I think about all the kids that we've graduated that would be so good in that program and the theater program.
Oh, yeah.
music program. Yeah.
It's one of those things.
But you've got the opportunity, you've got this other track, and honestly, I mean, when you look at the STEM
curriculum at STEM jobs or some things you have to move forward. If you've got a, say that you expand this and you do history, but you've got business, where you can set up your own, finance advisor. I mean, those type of things are where you can come back and, in addition to Tech Center. I mean, that's kind of what you do.
Well, like you say, it's an option for kids that aren't necessarily math or, they're not STEM, but compared to like, this looks good on a college resume, you work with the governor school.
It's a great opportunity for our kids.
You might have very something like that.
Okay.
Biggest challenge is gonna be transportation. Figuring that little piece, that piece out, because that's gonna be a big piece. Making sure we can get them there, get them back, but I think there's some potential work around there. So,
I think you'll have a lot of kids really interested in this.
I would think you
I
would,
would think so,
because
too.
it'll just, to help with kids, particularly the theater, the arts, and the music. I would think that we have some kids that are very interested in that.
It's exciting, and he does a really good presentation.
Yeah, he
Yes,
does.
he does it so great.
He does a nice job.
Yeah.
But and with that number too, I think the concern that I had was, okay, you're gonna get your classes, but they still can come back and participate in those.
Correct.
If they're good enough to be there, they're gonna be able to step right into productions and.
Looking at, particularly when you talked about coming back in and doing some of the productions at the theater and that sort of thing, if you look at some of the classes, you're talking about some like stagecraft, theater, the theatrical lighting and sound, so they're learning the other pieces as well, so that they have that potential to bring that back and incorporate that into their program and any shows that they do, so. So we'll keep you updated, there's prices on there as your representative as well, so.
Happy to take any questions back to the meeting.
Yeah, if you have anything, let us know, we'll take it to the meetings, and I can get to it quickly, get it, and get an answer.
I think the one thing that we, it's, I know that principals at the high school are always concerned about, their top students are leading the, for a period of time, and those are your leaders of the school. We need to work somehow to, I understand why they want to hold on to the kids as long as they can. Exactly. Yes.
Got one? Okay, I got one.
There's one, Philip, you can get.
Yeah.
He didn't get an L while he was out. That's a L that I can shoot that one.
If you're okay, we're gonna kind of maneuver it and move some things around. We've got a 10 o'clock construction meeting in Mason, so I'm gonna see if we can get through the school nutrition update for you, see if Dr. Brown can get out there to at least be our representative there, unless you all have other questions for him that he needs to be here. But with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Brown and talk about the school nutrition update.
Passed out 3 handouts. The first handout,
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt again, but I wanted to, just so you know, and he may be planning on sharing this and it may be on that information. But as you know, Monday and Tuesday, we serve food. We served over 1,800 meals Monday and Tuesday, 1,875.
that's awesome.
So that, I want to make sure that I thank Mike, Rachel, the bus drivers, the cafeteria employees, the staff that were there, the students that came out. I want to make sure to thank everybody that was there to help, because that was great to see, everybody come together to get that out for our community. And it was just a great thing, so. Thanks. I just wanted, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that I said that. So we appreciate everybody's willingness to help.
1,800.
1,875.
1875.
Sorry, didn't
That's
mean
no
to-
problem. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Dr. Argast and Lisa. They were a big help with this as well. I know Mrs. Mustang came out and Dr. Argast as well. Lisa actually flew the bus on Monday.
Me and Mr. Gibbons went everywhere, please.
Dr. Argast ran on Tuesday, and thank you to Amanda, I'm sorry there, Amanda, but, so everybody pulled together and it was very successful. So what you have 3 handouts, a one-pager for August versus September. You have our latest reimbursement summary for, it is September, I believe, yes, it is September, and you have our cafeteria tracker. While you see an increase in participation, for the month of September, unfortunately, we still lost, $76,000. Now, part of that is because every day that we are out of school, we lose approximately $7,000 every day. Now, with serving meals, on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be able to recoup some of those losses. But as luck would have it, the federal fiscal year starts anew on October 1st. So Mondays will go on September's, we'll get reimbursed for September. Tuesdays will go on October. Our total for Monday's reimbursement, 800 meals was $4,168. Tuesday's reimbursement for 1,075 meals was $5,600.75. We are reimbursed $5.21 for each meal that we serve in situations like that. And just so you know, we had to start planning Sunday morning to start serving these meals. I had to fill out USDA waivers. I was in contact with my state representative Sunday morning. I had to get the staff together. So I really want a shout out to everybody who was involved in this. I know it sounds simple, but it was a pretty big undertaking, and everybody pitched in. Teachers, we had teachers volunteering, we had kids volunteering. It was a very good thing. So on the one pager in August, you can see there we served a total of 9,551 breakfasts and 13,370 lunches for a total of 22,921 meals served. Month of September, we served 20,921 breakfasts. You can see that's an increase of roughly 10,000. And then 28,090 lunches. Again, about a 15, and I'm using round numbers, 15,000 increase for a total of 49,011 meals served for the month. You can see the breakdown on the participation increases. We did increase participation roughly 4.5% to 5% for breakfast, and for lunch, I believe we increased that participation as well. Also, a la carte sales. This is one of the things that last month when we presented the information, we saw a significant decrease in a la carte sales for our first year of CEP. This is something that we are hitting hard with our managers. We are coming up with different ideas. This is something that the managers are being reminded of on a regular basis. And one of the offerings we can offer is pizza. It's very easy. The kids like it. We can make a profit from that. So we are really pushing that. I have a new item that we will be introducing on October 7th. So this is the advertisement that will go out for that. So we are calling those the deli boxes, and if you'll notice, the colors are green and yellow and blue and red. So we are going to call those the Greenway deli box and the Spark deli box, and Eastern will be the Eagle deli box, Macy will be the Tiger deli box. those will be $4. I have priced those out. We will be, roughly, right now, if we use our commodities and so forth, we can get that price in at $2.53 a box. And we are running out, I think I mentioned this last month, we had an allotment of $60,000 for our DoD produce. We are really utilizing that this year for our fresh fruits, our salads and so forth. So even if that depletes, we price it out to still where we would make a profit. We won't make as much, it'd be about 50 cents per box. Now, I will tell you, everything that you see in that box does constitute a reimbursable meal. However, I do not want to serve it as a reimbursable meal because then that would lower the cost of $3.25 for reimbursement. So we could not turn a profit. So I think we're gonna have a better success rate if we do this a la carte. Now, I've instructed our managers to make 50 of these to see how they do. I might change the wording on that to say available October 7th, limited time. So not to commit ourselves to providing a product that won't sell. So I'm hoping that I believe and I hope and I pray we're gonna have our most success at our high schools. Our high schools are right now at this point where we need to increase our a la carte sales and see the greatest input. I will give a shout out to Ayers High School at this time and Giles High School. I know Brian and Shelley are doing everything they can to see or to assist in making sure everybody is fed, especially for our breakfast service. So this is, if you are okay with this and you don't have any comments, I'm going to ask Dr. Arvest to post this to Facebook this afternoon. Are we okay with our new deli boxes?
I love the deli box. I have a couple of edits on the actual ad,
Okay.
if that's all right, and I wrote them and I can
Yes.
send them over or pass it out.
So right now, the only two pictures I have are the ones you see on there that.
Yeah, no, the pictures are fine, these are words.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be happy to make those changes today and try to get those published. Again, we are going to start our after-school meal program Monday. We've had to push that back a little bit due to our days out of school right now. I talked to both athletic directors, and they agree that it would be best to start it on Monday. But right now, that menu is pretty much a PB&J Uncrustable, bag of chips, a cheese stick, fruit, and a milk. That would be our menu for October. I'm trying to convince our managers to put a little variety in there and do some subs. So we'll come out with a November menu on that. So we're hoping to roll that out. That will be actually 3 months earlier than we normally do it. Normally we've started in January. I'm really pushing the elementary schools so far. Macy has a very good schedule, and there's elementary, I believe has a activity. Just keep in mind, and I have verified this numerous times with the state, we have to offer an enrichment activity or an academic tutoring activity in order to feed our sports teams. And I have verified, Brian Bowles has verified that will take place. I believe he's got theater, which is an enrichment activity, which that allows us to feed all sports teams. Shelley, at the high school, we're doing tutoring for our middle school sport teams. That counts as a tutoring activity, plus any other activity like theater. I can't remember exactly how many times they're offering theater after school. I think it's twice a week. But that's really gonna help our kids out. I've really heard a need for our children to have after-school snacks. So that is something that I look forward to getting started on Monday. We're gonna roll our deli boxes out on Monday. Also want to let you know that I am planning and have scheduled to meet with our school nutrition managers twice a month, starting this month. Our first meeting, we have 2 meetings scheduled right now after the lunch is completed, October 9th and October 16th. At our first meeting, we're gonna talk about financial information. I believe we need to start involving them as much as possible in the financial conversations. We've kind of been blending that conversation in with our monthly meeting. I feel it important to separate that conversation out into a separate conversation to discuss finances. Our second meeting will focus on menu development. We've really been concentrating on new offerings, how to incorporate our DoD produce, our DoD, I call them brown box commodities, how to incorporate those into the menus. So one of the things, the more USDA and DoD items that we can use in our menu development, it lowers our overall cost per meal. So we're really focusing on that at this time. So one of the things that I am hoping that we have in October is as many service days as we possibly can. It is really huge to take a $21,000 financial hit. I mean, our folks are working very hard. Another thing to note is we lost over the 3 days on Monday. We had a refrigerator that failed at Nares High School, and we lost all the product out of that, it was around $750. We cannot turn it on insurance because it is, we have $1,000 deductible on each occurrence, so we can't even turn it on insurance. I tried to recoup some money through USDA. Basically, they said the federal government is not going to reimburse that money for anything lost, that we had to seek insurance coverage on that. I let our USDA representative know, Melanie Moreau, know that unfortunately we can't recoup that, and she is going to, if possible, see if there's any extra product for USDA that she can allot our way. So, after reviewing the information, does anyone have any questions, or any comments that would, on what's presented?
I'm looking at the financial sheet, the breakdown showing the loss. So, is this cash based?
Sir?
Is this cash based? In other words, cash in and cash out?
Essentially, well, it's cash in, cash out, and includes any and all expenses associated with the cafeteria operation, from personnel to insurance to food to equipment to everything.
Okay, so basically what we're seeing here are September's, what's included in the receipts, that's federal reimbursement for August and a la carte for September?
Yes, well, I don't know about the a la carte, but yes, it usually runs 1 month behind.
Okay, I just want to,
I don't know the answer about the a la carte, I can find it.
but I'd just like to know from the standpoint if we could get, because this, in fairness to what we're getting, this is,
It's 1 month behind.
yeah, basically, we've got to go, we need to get a snapshot of, August, in August with, basically taking the September reimbursement, where we could track, where the actual, how we're doing in an actual month.
Yeah.
In other words, yeah.
So, yes, I will work on that. The only thing that's a little bit tricky with how we get reimbursement, the one pager right here, it does not have financial information on it, but it does give you a little bit of information of how much we've increased participation. But I will work on getting real time, you're asking for real time now.
Well, for us to keep track of this, we need to know, like I said, in fairness, your September loss is not that great because you're paying August, you've got August revenue paying September's, August and September's bills. I don't know what those bills are, how they're paid, how far behind we are, whether it's, 30 days, 15 days, I don't know when we're paying those, but.
They're paying bills as quickly as possible. So
Okay, so we're probably closer on the expense side than we are on the revenue side.
Yes, I signed September September's checks yesterday.
Well, and the other,
But payrolls at the end of the month, so that's.
the other thing, just so we can keep tracking purposes, because, we're at that burn rate, 70,000, and I don't think we're gonna continue at 75,000. I think this is gonna be your worst month because revenue's, again, a month behind. But, if we burn through that, we're gonna have to start budgeting, if we burn through at this current rate, then next year we're gonna have to budget $500,000 for our cafeteria out of our general fund. So we need to know that, and the other thing I would like to see on there is that year-end contribution that we make to, retirement, that we divide that by 12 or whatever number we're going to divide it by in operations and add that in, because that's a cost that we don't capture until the very end on the sheet, so.
And Mr. Buckland, and yes, sir, so one of the things that I've asked for, and I believe is included in our financial data, is also the salaries for anybody associated with this. Insurance, I'll have to go back and check.
I thought last year that we
We did not do it that way last year, but this year I had talked with David and Katrina and asked that we incorporate VRS, insurance, anything that comes out during the month that needs to be represented in that month. Let me verify VRS. I'm not gonna tell you it's not in there, and I'm not gonna tell you it is.
Like I said, if we got the ballpark of what that number is, I mean, it probably stays pretty steady. If we can divide that by the number of months of operation, we need to include that in there.
Yes.
We've got to have a number by the, end of this semester when we go into budgeting season, because Dave, I was just asking, that VRS payment, Mike gave us the sheet here.
Yeah, benefits, your monthly expenses will be monthly, we're not doing the year-end payment. Just before it was easier that way because we weren't as tight as we are now. But now everything's monthly, so the expenses that you see month to month are exactly what's paid out.
VRS.
So VRS, any kind of benefit, fringe,
Salaries.
all that's included now in that payment. As far as the comparing September's reimbursement revenue to September's expenses, we can do that.
I don't want to put a lot of work on it, but you understand what.
Once we get the exact number of meals, we can do an estimation. My estimations are coming in just a little bit lower than what we're actually getting. I like it that way. But we'll just put another piece in there that says we did 49,000 meals. We estimate our reimbursement at 122,000, and then a la carte sales, what you're seeing, that's the true a la carte for September. So yeah, that's easy.
I just want to get an accurate idea what our burn rate is on this.
And with that, if we're losing money month to month, that $76,000 we lost is going to continue to grow. But hopefully in October, you're going to see a flip, and you should see that chip away to where we're not so negative starting next month. And that's the goal that they have. So
before we start spending our extra stride money, that might be the blessing to take care of some of this. But we've, again, try to turn a profit, but just we need to have that idea going into January. Appreciate it.
So we are.
And appreciate all the information. It's very helpful.
So we are working hard to overcome any deficit.
No, I 100% see that. It's just, again, this is just for our purposes. If we've got to figure out where that, we got to know how much reserve we had going into next year to be able to estimate that, or if we've got to ask for it or figure out where that's coming from.
Does anybody have any additional comments or recommendations, requests?
I'm just curious, how numbers don't need, we're not been done by. How do you participate? We everybody else will participate. Precipitation.
They have consistently been the leader. I mean, I'm starting my third year. They've consistently been the leader as far as participation and meals served.
like
Say
that.
that again.
It's been that,
It's been like that way for years.
Oh, yeah, for
It's
years.
great food, I mean, they do,
People even talk about how good their food is.
they really
for
do a great
years.
job. You should go down there one day and eat lunch.
I know that, Mrs. Kennett is starting to, offer some, I don't know how to put it, old school type offerings.
Oh, yeah.
The rolls,
Mhm.
homemade hamburger buns, things like that. Now, I will say she has the largest staff because her meals per labor hour will support that. So she actually has the most workers.
Been with her for a long time.
We're operating right now at Giles High School with 4, down 2, Nares High School with 3. With Macy, I think it's 4, and I think we're around that number at Eastern. So, the managers have been instructed that if you can get your meals per labor hour up, we can hire more folks. So, we're working on that, but, she's doing a good job. And as
Her
all of
teacher
our
Her
managers,
teachers bar is amazing.
as all of our managers, well, see, here's the thing, she has participation, and one of the things too is, through the county wellness system, and Emily Cook, she wants to do salad bars, and we've actually, at Macy, we tried that this year, we sold 8 salads. So, you're taking product that cost us a lot of money, and you put them on these salad bars, and if there's no participation, you're basically throwing money away. So we've been wrestling with that question, how to increase participation for teachers and so forth like that. We do offer the pre-made salads if you order them, but for us just to put product out on a salad bar and sell 8, we're losing, it happened last year, we're losing a lot of money. So if we can get I'm willing to put that out there, but at some point, that participation has to pick up to at least cover the cost. At Nares Elementary, no issue, no problem at all. So one of the things, Emily Cook and I, we met and we toured Nares Elementary and Nares High School. So we're in talks to try to offer those salad bars to the teachers. Nares Elementary's no problem. Nares High School does offer a salad bar, no issue. Well, we don't offer a salad bar at Macy and Eastern. We offer it part-time at Giles High School. And Emily's been really instrumental in trying to research and be supportive of how we do that. So we're in continuous conversation about that. So it's not that we don't want to, it comes down to a dollars and cents type problem.
She's talking out of the park.
She's not been out parking, she's looking kind of ready.
The other thing, I talked to Brandon the other day about I've been thinking a lot about this summer program. It looks like we need to team up with our churches. Summer, get our churches involved. Churches are all in the county, a lot of them guarantee would help us.
So one of the things, and I agree with you there, Mr. Williams, one of the things that we ran into last year was workers. We need a certain amount of workers, they need to be trained. There's a lot of moving parts to that, transportation, this, that, and the other. So one of the things I want to start looking into as soon as possible is how do we take some of that we're having issues with out of the equation and look for different resources. And I believe I need to do some communication and research with the state to see how we can restructure this to benefit the most students and negate the labor part of it on our end as much as possible.
Why don't we look to, between summer work program and ACE, you've got experienced managers and some experienced people that will be there. It seems like we could probably, if you had any students who are interested in the culinary professions or anything like that, and yes, is it not, it's not fine dining, but it's understanding the basics of a commercial kitchen. And the same thing, to the extent that the county, with ACE being more of a, the service thing, that maybe they would be they help, if we start those discussions now, we can plan for that.
Yes, and I believe the discussions need to start now.
Yes.
And we need to start looking for, I'd like to include our churches, daycares, anybody that we can use as a feeding site. So they're called feeding sites, which, no big issue, I have to apply, they have, it's a lot of paperwork, but it's not that big of a deal. If we start early. Our issue last year was labor, the issue before that was labor. My thinking is, we're gonna do summer school anyway, so we got at least one open kitchen. I don't know where summer school's gonna be this year, but, might be interesting with all the construction going on at both high schools.
I know, we just got finished summer school.
Well,
I will spend
Gotta think about that.
it's too early, right?
It'll be here before you know it.
But I am all in and very favorable in doing that, and I will try to gather information and present that to the board as I find out. I saw a need court these past 2 days. A huge need. We gotta figure it out. So I will push it, I will support it, I will be its biggest champion, and I will do everything in my power to convince those to come along and ride on that train.
No, I hadn't heard nothing but good things about what y'all did this week. Great.
Yeah, it was very, very moving. Any additional questions or comments, anything I can answer for you? Mr. Buckland, with that information presented by Mr. Thompson, it sounds like we have everything in there. We'll work on getting you an October for an October, a November for
I
a
mean, I
November.
think it's fair to use, that's the best way to look at what our progress is, because we gotta see, when you don't have that true up to the end, then.
Yeah. And I will I think this is a very rough draft of this, so we will double check and reread. There might be a misspelling on there, I'm not sure. But we'll fix that here in a second. Does anybody want to talk about, I think one of the topics that's not on the agenda, but it had been brought up in the month before, buses. Do we want to talk about that? Or do we want to table that to next month's work session?
Mr. Williams probably, I told him we put it on there, and that was my fault for not
You
getting
can
it.
put it off next month, there's no bigger rush.
I've got the information right here. I don't know how big of a deal is that we still do an agenda, but I can present
No,
it.
that's, if you got it, we can talk about it.
I've got it. So, at last month's work session, it was brought up that the potential of bidding out our buses to allow for more competitive pricing. Currently, we purchase our buses off of what they call the state contract, which is EVA. We have been purchasing Thomas buses for a long time. So last year on October 2nd, we ordered 2 Thomas buses at a cost of $151,055 each.
What passenger were they?
65 passenger, diesel. Now, these do have a little bit bigger motor and everything like that in it. Also, I communicated with Mr. Williams last year on April 25th. I had talked with Wayne James with Bluebird Buses to solicit an unofficial comparison pricing. That number that he got back with me in April for the gas buses, 65 passenger, and I had provided him the same specs that we had used for our Thomas purchases. The gas on that was $146,201. Now, there was
What
some.
was the other price, 151?
$151,055 each. Those were diesels. So the diesel price for a Bluebird was $148,930. Bluebird in their unofficial quote had some options listed with additional prices. I went through and looked at those options that we would need. One is a media dock reader. I believe a 5-year AC warranty, is needed, and a locking overhead bin. With that, you can add an additional $1,947 to each price. That brought the gas price to $148,148, and the diesel price to $150,877. Mr. James did contact me last week, asked me if I needed revised quotes. I have not received that information from him as of yet. I do believe in his information, the wait times might be a little shorter for Bluebird, but don't hold me to that. We would, if Bluebird was on the state contract or part of a state contract, that's one of the reasons why we didn't purchase it before, is because I don't believe they participated in the state contract or through EVA. There's actually multiple avenues that they can take for state contract. I don't know, and please don't hold me to this, I don't know that they're on any of them. They might be now. I have not talked to IC, which is international. If we do bid these out, that's the three that you would, probably the three bids you would receive: Thomas, Bluebird, and IC. On a separate, completely different note, we had a transportation audit last week through the VDOE, and the conversations with that gentleman. He was a pretty knowledgeable person. He had been the transportation director in Chesterfield. He was giving me some information about the Bluebird buses and their motors, because I told him we were thinking about going to Bluebird, just asking what his opinion was. He said that the gas motors are a 7.3 Ford variation.
I have a lot of trouble with that one.
They're having a lot of trouble. They're called the Godzilla motors, and their divisions are seeing motor failure at 40 and 50,000 miles. I will tell you that Cummins is coming out with a gas version in 2025.
My whole thing with the gas, I mean, I was a kid when the Kentucky bus crashed, and that was a gas bus, and it went up like a Roman candle. I mean, what are the fuel cell on those things? I mean, that's the biggest concern I've got is putting our kids with the incendiary device.
I am not pro gas, I am not pro diesel, I am pro safety. I have heard that we have some drivers that would prefer the safety features on a Bluebird bus, and I totally support that. I have no working knowledge whatsoever of an IC bus, but
Who's making their motors international?
I would say, I mean, if it's a diesel, it's gonna be a Cummins. It could be a Packard. I don't know. I don't know enough to tell you.
I'm just saying with this international with their diesels that they came out with in the commercial trucks, they can't sell them anymore.
They can't.
Their DEF technology just is not a mess.
No. I don't know, Mr. Buckland, to offer information on that. I can do some research and find out if you would like me to. But I just need you to point me in the direction that you want to go. I'm open to bidding these out and doing whatever you would request.
Mr. Buckland, I think now, back to that bus, Rick, you talked about, back then they didn't have a cage around the fuel system, fuel cell, now they do. Good fuel cell, but, I just think gas, I know it's a whole lot more efficient, cost wise, the gas bus is a whole lot more efficient.
You still get about 9 miles to 9.5, 9 miles to a gallon with the gas, which sounds like it's comparable to diesel. But, you know, one of the things we can do is we can price them out both ways. Well, Thomas won't be able to really, I think Bluebird is the only company right now that offers the gas variant. Again, Thomas will offer that variant in 2025. I don't know about IC.
Well, our buses, what kind of miles we get on before we phase them out of regular routes?
9,000.
I mean, 155, I mean, we've had some failing around 150 some, we've had some that's got 200,000. It varies. I will tell you, some of our buses from like 2016, 17. I think I'm telling you correctly, it's had some DEF issues. That's when the DEF technology came out.
My understanding, about $5,000 around there.
Yeah.
All it goes out.
It's, you know, to replace injectors, I learned is a very, very pricey endeavor is to replace. We can have them rebuilt. And don't hold me to these numbers. Please don't hold me to these numbers. I think around the new injectors are around $3,000 or something. We've spent upwards of $10,000 on some of these buses, to rebuild them. But that was last year. I think we had 2 to 3 buses that we had issues with.
I guess I and I'm a member taxpayer.
No, I understand completely.
I have to try to put, I would at least get up to that quote on all of it.
But I think 100%, yeah.
So
I don't know if we're gonna be able to order it this year or not.
he beat me to it. I was gonna say, in our budget meeting, I was gonna request two buses. So I would like to keep on that schedule if there's any way possible.
If you don't keep up a couple every year, you get behind.
We've got buses right now that, need to be replaced. We've got one in the Eastern District that needs to be replaced. We got one in the Central District that needs to be replaced. So,
I go and get quotes for all three, but, yeah.
I can work on that for you and maybe have that for the next work session.
Yeah, get quotes for all three, diesel, gas, and then with what are comparable options that what you think we're going
I'm
to.
gonna spec it out the same as the Thomas, for the Thomas. I'm gonna provide the same information that we provide to Thomas when we get those buses to the other 2 manufacturers. Does that make sense? So we're comparing apples to apples.
And one other question on buses, what are we doing with buses to take off the road, when we get rid of them?
We usually, so like one of the buses this year, we scrapped. Like one of the ones that we replaced, the other one went to another driver. It's a new, we call them new to them buses. So, we either, if it's like, Greg Lee got his bus replaced, that went to Bobby Buchanan. Okay, Bobby's bus, don't believe we're gonna rotate it into a spare.
I'm talking about when we get rid of them, how we get rid of them?
When we surplus them,
We get rid of
we
them.
crush them. Because the county has a policy that we can't leave the buses
Well,
in the county.
they're not gonna be sold.
I know we take any and every available component off those buses before we crush them, and we hold them in reserve for parts. They are then taken to, I think it's Princeton, somewhere in West Virginia, to be crushed.
We are taking scrap, no,
Yes.
correct. One time, you know, we traded some, we let Thomas have them $500.
We did that.
Yeah, we can put 4,500 of them in scrap, so that's why,
Yeah, we're scrapping.
okay.
We've been scrapping for the last, couple of years.
And another, we knew you were gonna do it, A.D. Well, and run the, he's a, used parts truck, yeah. He one time I told him, he told me, he'd give $20 for all we bring.
So it's, usually what we pull out of them is the seats, cameras, radios. I mean, they keep anything and everything that they possibly, Terry and Andy do a good job of keeping everything and anything that.
Oh, they
that we
have.
utilize. So that, any questions or comments on buses, Mr. Buckland, I will start, working on those quotes for you and hopefully have them by, can't promise, hopefully by the next work session in November, okay? Is that acceptable?
That works.
Okay.
Great.
The last, I can keep going if you would like. Last work session, you had mentioned cars. Do you want to talk about? I've given you some information. You had directed us to see if we had any surplus cars, and I passed that information on to you. The school system does not currently have any surplus cars that we could donate to Pembroke. The ones that we do have for surplus have some pretty major mechanical issues, transmissions and so forth. One of the reasons why we still have those in our inventory is when I talk to Terry, I believe they auction those off, and the auctioneer likes to have a bigger group of offerings. He likes to have, construction equipment in that to draw as many, bidders as possible. So I believe we have 3 cars, 2 or 3 that we're waiting to scrap. Right now in our fleet, we have 45 cars. They are distributed out amongst the schools and here at the school board office. The garage has 7 listed on our inventory, maintenance has 4. We have 8 that are spares, not spares, but committed to various programs. We have 15 that are listed here at the school board office. We have 3 that are listed at NARES, 2 at Giles County Tech, 5 at Giles High School, 1 at NARES Elementary, and 4 at Mason.
Yeah, I just looked and concerned about the need we got. Yeah, we used them all.
I do believe,
Our again, taxpayers and carrying on the insurance policy and all that.
so I believe we need to really look at our inventory, and I'll tell you why, because I was in Ayers Elementary and there's a white Cavalier down there that looks like it has seen its better days, and I don't know if it's moved in a long time. I need to see about that. Mr. McCracken's Lumina, we need to check on that one. We need to get as many cars. We need to keep what we need, but if we have any extra that serve no purpose.
Looks like it'd be a better way to put them out. Have a pool and put them, sign them when they want them, when they need them, sign up for them. I mean, there's 5 Giles High School, we've been moved in 2 weeks. And they've been moved.
One of the reasons, we don't have the space down here to store them, and I don't know that we have, I'd have to check with Terry. I don't know that we have necessarily the space at the garage, so one of the reasons, and I'm speculating, one of the reasons why these are distributed amongst the schools is, one, a lot of these, the numbers for the schools also include like the driver's ed cars, the sped cars that are needed, things like that. So there's cars that are needed on a daily basis at the schools.
What's the story on the driver's ed cars now? You have to replace them every year?
So what our thinking on that and our operational procedure that we utilize is we try to replace 1 special ed car per year. Driver's ed car per year, and then that vehicle is a year old and gets rotated back in our fleet year.
And we have to spend a certain amount of money on driver's ed on the car and do that, because if not, we don't have that high of an expense and we have to charge more. We
Wouldn't allow it.
yeah, it writes to what we can charge students, but we can't charge students.
Darby, I just looked at all and said,
Yes.
looks like you look better, you better way.
I understand. Now, some of those cars, one of the things that the garage utilizes are what they call spares. So if they have a bus come down for preventive maintenance, instead of just having the driver sit there all day, they will give them a car to take back to get their vehicle and go home.
I understand.
Yeah.
I thought 48 would be much.
We actually sometimes are short on vehicles here for all the activities. Our vehicles go anywhere from New York City to St. Louis to Virginia to North Carolina. I mean, it's we might have a spell where they all stay here for 3 weeks. We might have a spell where we're searching for extra vehicles and utilizing everybody's vehicles. So, but we will keep a mindful eye on that and try to.
The vans are used all the time.
Yes.
Well, and the cars, particularly when we had COVID and we had these kids where we were transporting them everywhere, we didn't have drivers, and so we were using cars to transport. And then when the spring sports, there's golf or tennis, sometimes we have to put them in cars, and transport them. So they may not be used every day, but they're used at some point in time. All of them are out. And, you know, and the kids that are displaced, right now, we're trying to get a list of the kids, like if any of these kids are displaced from the flood and they're living someplace different and it's not a bus route, we'll have to use our fleet of cars to go pick those children up. And if they end up in, let's say if a student, like, you know, we have them in the hotel, if they find a place in Christiansburg, they're considered a McKinney-Vento child, which means somebody will have to get in the car and drive to Christiansburg and bring them to school every day until they can find a place, because they get school of origin choice. And we've actually done that. I've had to drive to Radford, not this year, but 2 years ago, I would drive to Radford and pick a student up and drive them to Narrows Elementary School. So we have to do that if there's anybody from, you know, that's been displaced. If they find a home, you know, wherever it is, and they say, I want to go to Narrows, we will drive and get them and bring them to school and take them back every day. And we can't use a bus for that, you know, so.
You realize that,
Yeah,
you're required to do that.
yes, if that's law, if anybody that's displaced, and even if it's temporary, and right now, Mr. Gautier he's turned in six different families, but I think right now we've got them covered, but one's in a hotel right now. And the parents temporarily are dropping them off, but if they find someplace else, and they're like, you know, if it's in Pearisburg, we will be transporting them. Right now, we're transporting 4 students from Narrows to Pearisburg because their house is going to be ready in the middle of October. So we're going to get those students and transporting them. So there's just a lot of pieces that, you know, it's, you know, I can't drive a bus, so I have to get in the car and do it, you know, so that's some of the things that happen on a daily basis.
It's all I ask, if we can,
Yeah.
talk a little bit on, look at it.
Sure.
And one thing maybe you look at is, you know, I know the need for vans, and Lisa, I'm sorry I kicked myself for those
I wasn't
vans.
gonna
When we
say
got,
anything.
when we got, could've got up for 30,000 or 50, I mean,
Yeah.
out of the back room code.
Well, we didn't know.
But, you know, I see a lot, I know if we can look at things that we're gonna need for student transportation, because it seems like to me, we got a lot of staff usage, obviously, that's why we have a lot of cars and, you know, the 5-passenger type vehicles for our staff to go to conferences and things like that. But we know that, you know, there are a few times when those are fully utilized, you know, spring or when you guys are in conference season, those type things. Maybe if we look at, you know, figuring out costs, so we raise our federal reimbursement rate. I think don't we pay a little bit less for mileage if somebody uses their own?
40, yeah, I think we're there for 45 cents.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for students, they need to be riding in a system-owned vehicle. But if we look at reducing our fleet and for these staff, and say, look, because even like Emily, she'd rather drive her own car.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we look at that way, a lot of people would rather than driving a Cavalier to across the.
But one of our policies is if a vehicle is available, you only get 21 cents or something.
When you get half.
Yeah.
Well,
21 cents.
but what I'm saying is if we, you know, if we look, figure out what we need, you know, for our programs that we have people regularly driving, look at what we need student rides, focus more on vans and those type of things that serve more students that can use more. We're better targeting those taxpayer dollars, and then, you know, say we need 5 cars, but it's only gonna be for 3 days a month. It's a lot cheaper to pay the mileage reimbursement for those employees than it is to, you know, keep that car in insurance and have the cost of the car for that.
One of the things we did, Mr. Williams, last year was, you know, we had a lot of individual cars assigned to folks here at the school board office, like to individual employees. We actually consolidated those, and now 3 employees share 1 car, so it's better utilized.
And Dr. Howard, guess I don't have one.
Yeah, we took this instance.
Somebody got one.
I got kicked out.
So we utilize
filming
those as what we call trip cars. So we have been trying to be, tightening our belts a little bit with the budget, but we can always, look for new and more cost-saving measures. So, yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I want to go with construction. Is
You missed your 10 o'clock meeting.
that okay? That's,
Sorry.
do you want me to? want to change course a little bit and go into construction. The last work session, we had discussed the signage for 460 and improving that. We have received information from DDOT on the sign requirements and types. We need to price those signs, get those purchased, and we will probably reach out to the PSA or our maintenance department to install those. They are different than what is installed now. Ours has the lights and actual design, like a cutout in the sign. The new ones are different, so it's actually better, a better design, and it's more reflective, more visible. So we have the requirements from the VDOT for that. We just need to look into purchasing those and getting those installed as soon as possible. We have electricity for the existing signs there, so we can utilize that. So hopefully we'll have a cost and maybe some more information on that at our next work session. One of the things that I have is lights at our football stadium. We have been working with ZMM and DCI Showers to get our football stadium wrapped up. They have installed what I call the perimeter lighting around the field. Unfortunately, that lighting stays on now for 24 hours, 7 days a week. It can't be turned off right now. I contacted ZMM yesterday. That is a programming issue. The gentleman with Cooper Lighting who provided the training and the programming for our initial lights has been out sick. Frankie let me know that gentleman should be back to work either today or tomorrow, and they will address the programming for that. I believe at one work session we had talked about adding additional light to, if you're facing the press box to the left-hand side, facing out to the parking lot. We wanted to get our perimeter lights installed first. Prior to installing that, I had conversations a while back with Mr. Fisher about that, so I think now moving forward, if there's still a need for that, we can move forward on that. In terms of lighting at Macy, I do believe we had some issues with the exterior lights. I believe we discussed this at our last work meeting when we had the changeover for the electrical service. All of our lights went out except for 2 around the perimeter. I believe last time I discussed that, we had asked Bobby to switch one out to see if it made a difference. It did, it worked. At our last meeting, we had brought that up, and we need to pursue that with Ariel Price, and we're hoping to discuss that a little bit today, but to get those repaired. That is all I have right now in terms of facilities. I think Dr. Alvarez has some things that we've worked on to discuss with you as far as construction goes and bidding. Does anybody have any questions on what I presented?
What about you figured out anything on the gates at Giles?
The gates at Giles, the ones at the cafeteria and over by the buses. We're still researching options for that right now, and hope to have something, hopefully we can present at the next work session.
Sheriff's office should have a master key at dispatch, so that should be I haven't looked at the lock, I assume it's the best lock on there, best core, so they should have access to it. But I won't swear what kind of lock's on there, I haven't looked.
One additional thing, we discussed this in a couple of work sessions, our handicap signage at Dallas High School at the football field. We have those signs ordered. They will be here between October 3rd and 15th. We've had them ordered for a while. I was unaware that they were coming from China. They have their customs. With the verbiage as suggested by Wardell. So those will be installed as soon as they get here. The good news is they have their customs. So, sorry, didn't know they were coming from China. They didn't advertise that when I ordered them, so.
continuing with construction, just so you know, and I shared with you before that Giles, Narrows, and Tech Center bid projects were going out to bid. They did go out in the paper last Tuesday, the 24th. They were in the Roanoke paper. So we have a pre-bid meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, I think it is, or excuse me, next Wednesday, the 9th, at 1 o'clock. We'll do that here, and then we'll take whoever's here out to all the sites and let them tour the sites to make sure they get accurate information. And then the bid opening is scheduled for October 30th, 2 o'clock for the two high schools, 3 o'clock for the tech center. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have an idea. Cost wise for those facilities. Fingers crossed. Hoping it comes back like we did for Mason. Access roads at Giles and Eastern, Giles High School. Access road, I know Mike met with Bob and Todd several weeks ago, to discuss that. I think Jesse was there as well. And they were trying to get another meeting scheduled so that Chris could be there as well. So that's still in the works, trying to get that meeting scheduled. So that's still being discussed, so that Todd, Chris, and Mike, Jesse can all meet there and have a conversation, make sure everybody's on the same page. Eastern, Bob, Mike, and myself met with Mr. Mills down at Eastern to talk about what was being looked at. Got some feedback from Mr. Mills, looked at a couple other options to see actually if can we come directly out of the parking lot, basically come out and come across 460, but that's a conversation we're having with the out. I haven't heard back from Mr. Clark yet, Dave Clark, to see. Sent that earlier this week to him to see if there's a rule, the entrances close together, that sort of thing. So waiting to hear back from him for that. So we are still working on it and moving along with those just to see where we can do it.
The entry coming up the upper end.
Not up there, Nana side. I'm talking about coming out the upper, just out. Like you go in the parking lot, you can come out that, come straight out.
Probably 150 yards up.
That's what I said. I don't know I don't think they will, but I don't know. I want to find out from them to see if that's the case, then that takes that option off the board.
We're hoping that, so that's a good option for economic reasons. So we already own the property and it's a shorter distance.
So I'm waiting to hear back, and if I don't hear back in the by early next week, I'll reach back out to them. I didn't have the opportunity yesterday to see him.
Yeah, I hope they're still trying to purchase it right away property there, regardless whether they put a road in or not. One of these days, why you gotta talk to him? I thought we agreed to do that. Well, get the property anyway, whether we build a road out or not.
I think we need to, explore. I personally, I think it's a good idea to get that land, whether we're purchasing outright or the easement, at the price that we discussed. But just make sure the board supervisors are still on board with it. If they are, because I guess I don't know if anybody discussed with IDA or anything, but.
Well, that went with IDA now.
That's right.
Yeah,
Which mill?
I think I was Giles.
I thought we'd already agreed tonight whether we done the road.
I thought we had some consensus on that.
Well,
You need to.
Yeah, I mean, just I want to make sure, the only thing I want to make sure is board supervisors are okay with that.
They was at one time, $20,000. Could be a way to get it.
Yeah, I'll verify that and see what process we need to go through. I don't know what process we need to go through to get that easement.
Well,
If you're actually buying it, you'd be buying it. You'd be
bottom line, yeah.
Buy it right out, we own it.
Okay.
But you better.
Well, I'll reach out and see what we need to do. That's the projects that I had information on, the questions you all have on projects that you want.
Bob was Bob working on the their stuff?
Yes, we met with Bob, we took Bob down to Maris High School and met with Todd, Chris Helvey, and Brian. Again, that was a couple weeks ago as well, 2-3 weeks ago. walked around the track, walked around the baseball field, so he could see what the issues were. He's working on those.
Everything's off 10 foot, 10 foot rise.
Yeah, it's got a good bit of rise there in that outfield. Anything else?
Well, are we talking Macy phase
We
two?
can, I was gonna find the email that I sent to you.
Okay, I mean, I think, just Terry, I think the two things are, we need to, one, get Eastern finalized and get it in line for bidding as soon as we can. You know, I just, we've got to go ahead, we've got the support, we need to push these things through, and get these done, especially with the roof problems that we got at Eastern. All these things as quickly as we can get them done, and then same thing with Macy, we need to get, we need to get those two outbuildings replaced and get those done. So, and the county was okay, I guess, with your email, they're okay with the 6, which is replacing the white buildings and then adding STEM, basically 2 classrooms that will effectuate the STEM and the art.
Correct.
Everybody good with pushing forward, zoom in, doing drawings on that? Please thank the county for their support of that, whether like everything else, but that's great.
One other thing I thought of is Mr. Brown, I watched on the hill while ago and found out that supposedly 500 coming to help with flood. And actually, we had a request for some
I was gonna bring it up to you.
later.
Go ahead if you.
Oh, I just heard we had some help coming from, we had 500 of them can come and help on the flood cleanup.
Yeah, we got word late last night, that Fort Cadet wants to send, they're gonna send 500 volunteers over. They need 10 buses. County needs 10 buses for us. I assume there's not an issue before I told them to go, we provide the buses. Now, drivers is gonna be the question. I don't know if we've got the drivers to drive our buses.
Well, if
So,
the
but I
county probably find somebody to help us too, I mean, they got CDL qualified people.
it's sad
But can we, if we don't have the buses, can we just figure out how we can get the county people on our insurance, cause I know they've got people that can drive their CDL license.
I was gonna say, we can't have like volunteer CDL drivers, like,
they're supposed to have gone through our program, except for they get to drive the bus. Now, I guess we could, quickly do the similar, agreement.
He might not like it, but I will volunteer.
If you listen to the county, and or allow the county to use it, the county can't get sued for anything. Pretty much.
Do you know what day? I mean, is there?
pretty much as important.
Well, I mean, that's Richard's problem.
Came off there this Saturday.
I know some of our drivers, but I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna have the drivers. But with the rate that I was told, that we probably will have the drivers.
Just get it, that's the thing, just do whatever we can to get it done.
We're working on it.
Yeah, so that went out this morning, you know, I spoke this morning that, Rachel sent an email to drivers at 8:30 or so this morning to see if we got any interest, and I just shared it to her. Sorry, that's what I was doing on the phone, going back and forth with Chris, and, but I told him I wanted to make sure I shared it before I told him, yeah.
But if money are paid, if
Yeah,
the money are paid,
what he told me is that they were gonna pay the drivers.
I think it would. It'd be fine to get 500 bodies here for a whole day, and not big in anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna need them from basically 7 o'clock, till 7 a.m. to about 3, 4 o'clock but that evening, so it's gonna be all day. They said they'll
make sure the buses, if they're torn up, they'll take care of them, clean them up, so they'll take care of them, is what they said. And they will pay the drivers. We'll communicate that with them, let them know that buses aren't a problem. We just need to figure out who's driving. I want to give these to you so you have them to review as well, some of the policy changes that we've talked about. Two of them, one of them is the draft cell phone policy. We've sent that out, I've sent that out to administrators one time already to review. And based on some of their comments, making more changes to it, I plan on sending it back out to them again to review. I'm not asking for you all to do anything with it today, but I meant to send it out to you Tuesday before I left the office, and I failed to do that. But I want to make sure y'all have the opportunity to review it. We can make any verbiage change. Again, it needs to be approved by January, so we still have a little bit of time.
I presume it's similar to what we currently got in place at schools.
The second one is a draft policy. We talked about exams as well. I forget what meeting we talked about that, but through some conversations with administrators regarding exams and removing exams and just having, instead of policy says they gotta give exams now, we just remove them. They can use projects and I forget what verbiage I used, and what was used in there. But again, I wanted to give that to you so you can see it. What I do, I will plan on doing that with it as well, and send that to administrators to make sure they're comfortable with it, make sure we haven't missed something, and then we'll revise that as well. Final test for product, so if they still would have the ability to do some sort of final test, some final project or something like that, midterm or at the end of the year, so as long as they would communicate that as well.
Maybe we should add highlighting color to our policy, maybe when they can
Sorry, that was just easy for me to keep track of.
I appreciate that, that's
That was easy for me to keep track of, and I knew that if I did that, I knew where.
well, I like to be font too.
The other item was, with the renovation at Macy, and they're starting to go back on, and I should have shared that earlier, they're going to start going back on night shift, Monday, the 7th. 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. 410s. There's gonna be a lot of workers in there and that sort of stuff, so Giles High School is gonna need to have a facility to use besides Mason for after-school athletics and that sort of stuff. And that's been communicated to them. We received, Amanda received a copy of an agreement from the town of Parisburg that they wanted us to sign to use the community center gymnasium. I have shared it with council, and I will take what council shared back with me in the document and share that with them to see if they I'm sorry, because I don't know what it says in the revision, because I just got that back from him this morning while we were sitting here, so I can't tell you what the revisions are, but I know there's a couple things in here it talks about. I'm not sure why we, as the school system, they're referring to us as the school. And it also says Mason Clarity Volleyball, and it's not Mason Clarity Volleyball. So, in this agreement, so. There's just a couple things that.
I'm just curious, let's see it. It's on, well, okay.
You can look at the draft.
but that's what was sent to us. So. But I will communicate back to them today what I received, so we can try to get that, make sure that they have somewhere to practice. But otherwise, I don't have anything else unless you all thought something that I forgot.
I was just gonna say, as far as the exam policy goes, and, you know, I will give a shout out to Dr. Arbogast. We met with both high schools in our data meetings, and we went over data and had good conversations. Dr. Arbogast took, you know, time out of his day to go and sit down with the teachers and listen to them, and no one brought up a complaint about not having exams. So, you know, or any, you know, they had an audience with the superintendent, and we never heard anything as far as please don't take our exams away. It's actually the opposite. So that's what I've heard. So I just wanted to.
And with as well as being backed up, as far as they're gonna be backed up, it just timing.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, the kids that are going to need to be preparing for college exams are taking classes that
Yeah.
don't have college type exams, so.
They no longer serve.
That's all I had. I think. You wanna go into,
Yeah, just discuss a few things, closed. Tobias have anything? Well, there's one thing brought up, I talked to Mr. Williams, and Philip, I apologize, I talked to you about it before, but, the drug testing policy. Yeah, would you tell your, yeah, so, well, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up for discussion the continuation of our drug testing policy for the athletes. To my knowledge and what information I have been given is that over the course of some 12 to 15 years, we have found less than 5 students to be in violation of that policy based on the testing. And that the testing we are currently using will only, and I'm getting this secondhand, so somebody can validate it, that the testing that we are using is only going to identify usage within the last 24 hours. And so the likelihood, if these children are doing something illegal recreationally on the weekend, when we're testing them on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday, we're not going to catch those issues based on the testing that we're using now, and it is quite expensive. So what I wanted to discuss is it still serving a purpose? Is it just about deterrence factor? Hey, we can possibly drug test you, so therefore you will not use drugs. Right, there are communities around us who are not doing this as well. So from a cost savings perspective, I thought it was worth having a discussion. Mr. Butler, I know you had some feelings.
Well, you know, when we've had that before, I talked to Mr. Williams, and obviously, I do think that we ought to have the ability, you know, in there, I'm not saying scrap the whole policy, but, you know, with the cost and those things, we look at it. I know we've raised some issues about coaching stipends and that, and we're spending that kind of money, that on only athletics for drug testing. And I know, Philip, you've got you know, I respect that, and I think I raise that issue and maybe we discuss it, you know, more, you know, individually as we go forward, but wanted to raise that out here just so, we can solicit thoughts and talk about it, not make a change right now, but look at it going forward.
Yeah, the other thing that I would just add to that is, I agree, I don't necessarily think it's a policy that we scrap altogether, whether it's a modification to the testing that we use, something that is more robust, like if we have concerns, a test that only validates if somebody's done something in the last 24 hours does not a lot of good for us in the middle of the week if it was an issue that happened over the weekend. And just to weigh the cost benefit there, the amount of money that we're spending, if we've really only found less than 5 students over the course of the last 15 years have violated that policy, I'm just not 100% sure that one, that it's working as a valid deterrent, and two, if it's the right way to spend that amount of money.
Can you find out if the 5 is correct over and is it correct about the 24-hour period of time?
Rachel, I can get Rachel's actually talked to, Rachel Collins, she's the one that does it. She's spoken to the lady that does the testing, that comes and tests, and she did confirm that that's true. It's 24-hour detection, so.
And talk to Steve. Steve, I know you've been gone. Kelly got me, Steve got Nicole and raised the cost issue. I guess they're seeing that we're spending that, but again, it's like, just because we save that money doesn't mean that's going to their athletic departments or that kind of stuff, but, you know, Jay's raised the coaching stipends, and I personally don't think we've got a problem attracting coaches, but also, you know, see colleagues that spend a lot of time that.
Well, I think the policy's done a lot of good. We had a serious problem here one time, that policy couldn't affect it. I was around. No, for a fact.
I just think if you do away with it, it's just gonna explode, but that's
I
just.
agree, man. I agree. You gotta have a threat there. They need to know that they're gonna be held accountable.
But let's have, you know, Philip talk, we'll talk to Steve, and then we'll all talk, and get back together on this.
Because again, maybe there is a different testing we can do that is more robust. Just whatever we are doing right now is not catching any problems, none. And I don't have any data to show me that it's a valid deterrent.
And another way we were doing it too, I don't agree with, is if you test, say football season, you test football players. Once they're tested, they know they're not getting tested until another sport starts. So they can go do what they want to. If they know that even though they were tested for football, if they know that there's a possibility that they could get tested again in a week or 2 weeks. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good point.
Because they know right now the way we're doing it, they're only testing for
Just
that one
pulling
sport.
fall sports.
Yeah.
That one time, and then you don't pull them again. And
Until
there are small
another-
schools, a lot of times it's the same athletes,
Right,
all
it is,
three.
it's the same, it is. But
Because
my,
and that's the way it's written in policy. Random tests conducted at each school during each athletic session or season. So it's
but yeah, but
done in the fall, done in the winter, done in the
a
spring.
lot of them do
Well-
participate in all of them, and they're random, correct?
Well,
They are
The
random.
same athletes get pulled every
They,
time.
they
Mine always got
do the randomization. That's not here. That's not ball. That's not here.
the other thing, you know, you can't legally test all students, so, if, you know, I hear, well, why don't we test other folks? We could test folks that drive to school. That's a category that you could do, because I hear complaints from coaches about, you know, and again, you know, I've got my issues with testing procedures and all that. That's a story for another day. But, you know, the complaint I always hear is why is it just your athletes? And again, usually most of them are your leaders of your school, your best kids anyway. You know, if we want to combat a drug problem, you know, if you're going to drive to school, you're going to get drug tested, or you're going to lose that ability to drive to school. and potentially lose your ability to compete in, whatever we decide to do. I mean, I think it's something that what are we targeting? We're targeting drugs with athletes, we're targeting drug problem in our schools. That's the discussion as we go forward. Again, nothing's gonna happen, but,
That's not a problem.
Change the problem, it's gonna come out of the parking lot.
Well, what I missed,
Targeting athletes.
yeah, and what I did not know until I started digging into this a little bit, I was honestly under the impression that this was like a VHSL expectation that we would
No, most people do
validate,
not
but
do
it's
it.
not. Most of the communities
Most
around us
do not.
do not do this at all. And I found that fascinating, but if we are going to keep that money allocated for this type of prevention and deterrent and threat, then I just feel like there is a better way for us to use that. Because what's working, what we're doing right now, I'm just not sure, I'm not confident is the right policy or use of funds.
Well, one of my concerns about it too is if you pop a kid and they lose their ability to play the sport that they're in, that kid's usually an at-risk kid. What are we doing? And I've always had this concern. What are we doing for that kid other than sending them home at 3:15 to smoke more weed or whatever that is, whatever they're doing when they could be around hopefully good influences. And I don't know, that this is stuff to see if we to look at it from that standpoint of we've got the punishment, but what are we doing? A way to earn your way back that is a positive influence versus just, hey, you've got this support system that this kid has, and you're cutting that off, and you're sending them back into and usually, I mean, as we know, usually drug use is meant that there's some experimentation, but if you're regular enough to get popped on one of these tests, there's something else going on mental health wise, or that maybe we could. There's just a lot of things there.
It was implemented, I think 2013.
And do you have access to the number of kids that have tested positive?
We'd have to go.
Oh, you don't have that
I don't have it
okay.
right in front of me, no.
That came from the two head coaches
I'd
that
have
have done it over the years.
Okay, that's that's
Right,
right.
we'd have to go back to, I have to go back to pull that information from each year, each session to see how many we had.
All right.
And we will, and I'll get that information to you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other things? All right. Need a motion to go to closed session, talk about personnel.
I'll make that motion. So.
Got a motion, second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Black, white,